Eclipses of the sun are not new. There have been eclipses, occultations, and transits ever since there have been planets, stars, and orbiting satellites like the moon. These are only a few of the workings of the marvelous machine known as the cosmos. Although they happen every 18 months or so, eclipses are still mostly unknown to humans due to their curiously impacting nature. We run around during an eclipse with a mix of excitement, dread, curiosity, astonishment, wonder, and fear as we see the workings of our tiny, insignificant cosmos, much like dogs do during thunderstorms. With eclipse fever sweeping the country following the 2017 complete solar eclipse, we thought it was about time to help explain this unique occurrence and provide some light to what may have otherwise been a gloomy day for some. Transit, occultation, and eclipse. This terminology can be a little difficult to understand. Technically speaking, an occultation is when something obscures something else from view. Actually, what we refer to as solar eclipses are solar occultations. The moon cannot physically block the sun because it is too small. On the other hand, it is large enough to block it from view. Since the larger Earth is obscuring the smaller moon from the sun, lunar eclipses are indeed true eclipses. Although since the Earth is smaller than the sun and cannot block it out, theoretically that is also an occultation. When a larger body completely obstructs a smaller one, an eclipse actually occurs. Despite this, we still call the moon blocking the sun a solar eclipse and the Earth blocking the moon a lunar eclipse since the names are based on perspective and we are viewing these occultation from the surface of the Earth. Also, it's out of date. As a result, the moon obscures the sun from Earth during a total solar eclipse. Depending on your vantage point, an eclipse may be total or partial and have a wide range of characteristics. All eclipses and occultations are transits because they happen whenever one celestial body passes in front of another. However, not all transits are eclipses since one celestial body need only pass in front of the other as viewed by the observer for a transit to occur. Why is it called an eclipse, then? The origin of the word eclipse is Greek, whose mythology featured the sun god Helios who dragged the sun across the sky. They interpreted the word eclipse to imply downfall or abandonment, believing that the sun god was leaving them. Many people believe that eclipses were spiritual omens or ominous prophecies. Because people have historically been superstitious, we have continued to refer to solar occultations as eclipses because to the emotional associations with the word. Eclipses can be partial, annular, or total. A partial eclipse occurs when one object partially blocks the view of another. Annual eclipses occur when a body blocks the center of another, allowing the surrounding area to be seen. Total eclipses happen when one body completely conceals the view of another. How often occur eclipses? Generally speaking, a solar eclipse occurs twice a year somewhere on Earth. There will be 224 eclipses in all in the 21st century, with about 77 of them partial, 72 annular, and 68 total. There will also be a small number of hybrids, which are the rarest of all, that combine total and annular characteristics. The number of different types of eclipses that occur in a year can range from 1 to 5, depending on the geometry of the sun, Earth, and moon. What time is the upcoming hybrid eclipse? The greatest places to view the upcoming hybrid eclipse, which will take place on April 20th, 2023, are Australia, Papua New Guinea, and Indonesia. The best viewing locations for the following one will be Panama and some areas of the Pacific Ocean on November 14th, 2031. Size of an eclipse. Despite being only around 100 miles wide, 160 kilometers, in the case of a total solar eclipse, the region of full eclipse can span an area 10,000 kilometers long. The longest eclipse lasted for 7 minutes and 12 seconds. Eclipses only endure a short while. That one will take place on June 25th, 2522. Similar eclipses. Due to the Earth, Sun, and Moon's regular rotation, an eclipse always occurs 18 years and 11 days after another. For instance, the eclipse of 2017 has a twin event scheduled for September 2, 2035. A Saros cycle, which refers to the period of 18 years and 11 days, is what this twinship's eclipses are called. When an eclipse takes place, solar eclipses are accompanied by rapid temperature reductions and darkness, but lunar eclipses are accompanied by darkness that blocks out the moon. It seems like an unusual, sudden dusk that ends in twilight to those in the line of totality. Viewing an eclipse. Since you're just watching the Earth's shadow move across the moon, lunar eclipses are simple to observe. You only need darkness for that, so you can see the moon in the sky. Due to the sudden change in lighting and the fact that you are still looking at the sun, solar eclipses can easily harm your eyes. Fortunately, there are numerous safe viewing options for solar eclipses that have been outlined by NASA. Eclipse velocity. The eclipse shadow travels across the Earth's surface incredibly quickly because of how swiftly bodies rotate. At the equator, an eclipse's shadow can move at a speed of 1,100 miles per hour, but as you get nearer the north or south poles, that speed soars to 5,000 miles per hour. Eclipse circumstances. Since the Sun and Earth are never on opposing sides of the moon at the same moment, a solar eclipse can only happen during a new moon cycle. Since the moon and sun are only ever on opposing sides of the Earth during the full moon phase, lunar eclipses can only take place then. When there is a solar eclipse, what to watch for? The sun, which seems to us as a large, solid disk of burning material, is actually surrounded by a vast halo because it is actually a mass of blazing gas that isn't at all solid. We can see the flames emanating from the sun when the moon obscures the solid center. The sun's corona, which means crown, is this halo and is the main reason why people want to see a solar eclipse up close. Before eclipses were as well understood as they are now, there was a far more ominous atmosphere around the mysterious occurrences. Before Johannes Kepler gave a scientific explanation for eclipses in the early 17th century, there was a great deal of confusion around eclipses because they were not very correctly or scientifically characterized. People frequently changed their behavior in an effort to prevent the gods from unleashing their wrath, since in most types of mythology and some faiths, eclipses were interpreted as a sign that the gods were furious and that danger was about to strike. For example, many Hindus refrain from eating during eclipses in order to prevent the effects of the eclipse's evil spirits. They also frequently recite religious hymns as protection from the eclipse's evil spirits. Following an eclipse, Hindus in India will also bathe in the Ganges River, which is seen to be spiritually purifying, to rid themselves of any evil spirits. Early Judaism and Christianity perceived eclipses as divine signs. Some eclipses were interpreted as demonstrations of God's majesty or even as symbols of the life and death cycle. However, more sinister eclipses, like a blood moon, were interpreted as a portent from God that he would soon wipe out their adversaries. When the moon moves through the Earth's shadow, a lunar eclipse takes place. Only during a full moon, when the moon is on the opposite side of the Earth from the sun, does this occur. An eclipse of the moon can be seen from almost the entire hemisphere, unlike a solar eclipse. This makes viewing a lunar eclipse from a specific point far more common. A lunar eclipse lasts longer, lasting many hours, with totality itself typically lasting between 30 minutes and over an hour on average. There are three different kinds of lunar eclipses: penumbral, in which the moon only enters the penumbra of the Earth; partial, in which the moon enters the umbra only in part; and total, in which the moon enters the umbra altogether. All three phases are covered by total lunar eclipses. But even during a total lunar eclipse, there are still some light reflections from the moon. Sunlight that has been refracted by the Earth's atmosphere enters the umbra and casts a dim light. Similar to a sunset, the atmosphere tends to scatter shorter wavelength light more strongly, giving the lighting of the moon by refracted light a reddish tint. For this reason, depictions of such lunar phenomena dating back to the earliest eclipses sometimes use the term blood moon. That was for today. Thank you for staying with us. Don't forget to like our video and subscribe to our channel.